Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome to Steelers Almighty. Happy Halloween. It is Happy Halloween, or should I say Big B, a.k.a. Fred Flintstone, chiming in from Yabba Dabba Doing at Steelers Almighty. Let's get this thing going. Look, I'm into Halloween, man. We throw a crazy Halloween party every year. My wife loves it. So if she loves it, I love it. And today is Halloween. Let's get down with it, man. But we got a good show for you guys. First things, again, Steelers Almighty, fastest growing Steelers channel on YouTube. We're killing it with the numbers because of you guys, man. I love exactly the kind of energy that you guys bring to this channel each and every day. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Today, we're going over some stuff. We got Diontae Johnson going to the Ravens. We're going to talk about what that means for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dan Moore Jr. Is it time to talk extension for Dan Moore Jr.? What's wrong with Keanu Benton? I've got some thoughts on what's wrong. I'm not saying that he's playing bad or terrible, but maybe not up to snuff on what we thought it was going to be this year. And then Beanie Bishop. Is he going to keep his job? We got a lot of guys that are coming back after the bye in the secondary, especially. Is Beanie Bishop going to be able to keep his job? So weekly, you can find Steelers Almighty at youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Also, all your social media platforms, Steelers Almighty is there. And then anywhere you get your podcast, if you prefer the audio version, just make sure you subscribe to Steelers Almighty. Let's get into this, people. Let's just dive into this thing. So Diontae Johnson, look, he's going to the Ravens. I was upset about it, because let's just be honest. Let's get it all out there. Diontae Johnson's a hell of a receiver. He is. When he was with Pittsburgh early, he had the drops. He did. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But he seemed to overcome that the last couple of seasons. He got past it. He's an outstanding route runner. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. He was the best. He's been basically the best route runner on this team, I would say, since he got here. So let's not kid ourselves about what kind of route runner that Diontae Johnson is. Maybe not his rookie year, he wasn't the best, but definitely the last 3 years with Pittsburgh, 4 years, he was the best route runner that we had, including last year. And so him going to the Ravens, man, it's a problem. Now, let's cover the other stuff about him. Yes, he was a problem in the locker room. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He had a problem with Mika Fitzpatrick. There's reports that Mika basically punched him in his face. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We know there was a confrontation. He had a lack of work ethic. We saw it on the field. That's not just people throwing rumors out there. We saw it. Didn't give effort all the time. Didn't block. Didn't try to recover fumbles. I mean, there was effort issues with Diontae Johnson. And then when you question him about it, that's where the problem came in, because coaches question him about it. He wants to cuss out coaches. Well, Mika wasn't having it. So there were issues, and I understand why the Steelers decided to move on from him. But we're lying to ourselves if we don't think that it made the offense worse. It did. Yeah, our offense isn't better without him. That's why we've been begging and trying to get a second receiver ever since we traded him. Was the trade-off better in the long run? I don't think we know that, but here's what I can say. We basically traded him to the Ravens. That's what this ended up coming down to. I know he didn't go there directly, but we traded him to the Ravens. I mean, I'm sorry, people. That's a positive for the Ravens. The Ravens end up winning. The Ravens roster is better with Diontae Johnson on it than without it. Period. End of story. Does that make them unbeatable, invincible? Absolutely not. Doesn't mean that at all. But again, I say this all the time. Let's just tell the truth. The Ravens are better today than they were previously without Diontae Johnson. The Steelers' offense is worse. Now, doesn't mean that the Steelers' offense still doesn't work. We've saw what it is the last couple of weeks with Russell Wilson at the helm. Again, not a knock to Justin Fields. We're not doing that. We're just saying that this offense has looked better against some decent defenses the last couple of weeks with Russell Wilson. So I don't know. Um, it was the headache worth the reward with Diontae Johnson? I think a lot of people would say no. Dante Jackson, who we got back, has been a pretty good corner, and the Steelers needed that. So, and the Steelers make this trade, they get a corner, and it helps. So, who ended up winning? That's up for debate. Um, but I do know this, that the Ravens got better by adding him to the team. But I also am not going to rule out that the Steelers are better off without him. While the offense is worse, I can see that. But what else do you have to deal with inside the locker room? And maybe, the old saying, they'll put up to you with you until they can replace you. They didn't technically replace him with an offensive player. They've replaced him with a defensive player. We'll see. We'll see how it works, man. Let's go to the first poll, though. So, first poll question. Do you believe that the Ravens' addition of Diontae Johnson makes the Steelers' road to a division title tougher? A, yes, one. B, no, one. And we got 3 poll questions. That's why we say put a 1 after your yes or no. So, does it make our road to the division title tougher? I would tend to say yes, but you guys make up your own minds on what you guys believe. Let's move on. Dar Jr. I mean, it's starting to become time to talk about, does Dan Moore Jr. deserve an extension? Now, we know the Steelers way. We're not going to do that during the regular season. That's not going to happen. But do we have to seriously consider re-signing Dan Moore to be left tackle? First off, let me just clarify a couple of things. I don't know. Y'all think I'm hard on Broderick Jones. You have no idea how tough I was on Dan Moore, and deservingly so over the last 2 years. I know we just started this channel this year, April 4th of this year, but on other platforms, I was all over him, and deservingly so. I mean, he was rated the worst tackle in football last year and the third worst tackle the previous year. That's not good play. Oh, by the way, even if you don't like any of those analytical statistics, Steeler fans watched Dan Moore play football, and it was atrocious. It was atrocious. But putting all that aside, Dan Moore's playing good football this year, people. He is. Now, there's going to be people out there that tell you that Dan Moore's not playing well. Those are the people that either just hate him because he was bad the previous seasons, and they can't see past that and say, well, he's actually playing good this year, because Dan Moore is playing good football this year. Now, I've got some theories on that, or at least one theory. You know what we say at Steelers Almighty. Guess what Dan Moore is in, people? Contract year. It's time for Dan Moore to get paid. So now he's up this game. Now, I'm not saying that he's just going to play bad, and then all of a sudden now he's playing good in a contract year. But it is a contract year. You don't think he doesn't know that? He doesn't understand that? Of course he does. I also want to give credit that he's been developed into being the player that he is today. Okay, we crush Pat Meyer, and again, deservingly so. I don't think he's the greatest offensive line coach. I don't even think he's a good one, to be honest with you. But you can't say that Dan Moore hasn't been developed into a good tackle. And let me talk to you as far as good. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Pro Football Focus. I'm not necessarily saying that I like Pro Football Focus, but it is a tool. Okay, we can't hate all of it. It is a tool. We use our eyes more than we use anything, but it is a tool. As far as what he is rated, he's rated the 20th best offensive tackle in football right now. Okay, 33rd against the pass, 30th in the run. Now you're thinking, how the hell can that be, Big B? He's 33rd and 30th. How does that mean that he's not? How is he 20th? Well, some guys are really good pass blockers and they suck in run blocking. And there's some guys that are really good run blockers, and they suck at pass blocking. So that's where Dan is right in the middle. So that's going to bring his average up, and that's why he's number 20. Who would have ever thought that you would even utter the words Dan Moore Jr. is the 20th best tackle in the National Football League? I don't think anybody would say that. Now, I'm not saying that he's been perfect. I'm not saying he's a top 5 tackle. I'm not saying anything anywhere close to that. But what I am saying is he's played good football this season if you're watching. Oh, and by the way, what else are we going to do? Are we going to go draft the guy? I don't know. We'll put all that into a question here, and I'll ask you in the poll question. But with all of that being said about Dan Moore and what he's doing, does that mean the Steelers give up on Broderick Jones? It's a good question. I mean, is it time to just say, you know what, Dan Moore Jr., this is your job, and it's your job for the foreseeable future, and we're going to pay you as it's your job? Is it time to do that? Have they decided, okay, we're done? Because remember, Troy Fautanu was going to be the right tackle had he not been injured. Broderick Jones was going to be the swing tackle, which I always thought was weird in the offseason. I thought all of that was weird. I'm like, why is the guy that we want to play left tackle the swing tackle? Well, it all makes sense now. Broderick wasn't good enough to play left tackle. He wasn't good enough to play right tackle. Fautanu just got hurt. This is where it was always going to be. He was always going to be the swing tackle. Well, that makes a lot of sense now that we sit back and think about it. I don't know if the Steelers are ready to give up on Broderick because the talent is there. But what you cannot deny, people, Dan Moore Jr. is playing good football. And isn't that all we wanted from him, is to be playing good football? You know, that's all. I mean, nobody disliked Dan Moore Jr. because they couldn't stand him. They just, hey, man, you're not playing well. Well, now you have to, if you're going to be honest about what you see, you got to say he's playing good football. Is it great? No. I'm not saying it's great, but it is good. It is good. Let's move on, man. Let's go to the poll. Poll question for good old Dan Moore Jr. How should the Steelers address left tackle in the offseason? A, re-sign Dan Moore Jr. B, move on with Jones and Fautanu. C, draft another tackle. Or D, add a tackle in free agency. It's tough to get a starting left tackle in free agency, but they're available. There are some guys out there. Drafting another one, I think the Steelers got some other needs. I'm not saying that you shouldn't necessarily try to do that, but I think the Steelers have some other needs. I mean, they've addressed the offensive line, and not that you ever stop. You don't need to stop addressing it, but I think they got some other needs early in the draft. And if you're going to spend a mid-round draft pick on an offensive lineman, then you got to re-sign Dan Moore. It doesn't make sense to draft a left tackle in the 4th round and then put him as your starter. You already did that. You got the guy. I mean, you literally got the guy that you did that to. Just re-sign him. So those are poll question number 2, people. Moving on to halftime. Look, you have been incredible, man. I know I'm having fun with the hair today with Fred Flintstone outfit, but I appreciate you guys, man. I really, really do. You guys have been phenomenal. We're almost to 4,000 subscribers. Look, we started April 4th, and you guys have just blown me away with the support. We do the best that we can as far as the graphics, the dialogue, and everything that we bring to you guys. We appreciate all the support. You see our schedule here, weekly podcast, and everything will get back to normal, next week. It was odd because we played the Monday Night Football game. Every Wednesday, we have our weekly podcast. Scouting Report comes out on Friday. The live pregame and postgame shows. And 1 hour before the game, 15 minutes after the game. Report cards come out on Monday, and then that all 22 comes out on Tuesday. So, and remember the Steelers hotline, Steelers Almighty hotline, I should say. Call in. We haven't got any calls the last couple of weeks, or I take that back. We've gotten some, but none that we can use. Call in. Let us know your rant. Let us know your statement. Anything you want to let us know. 412 444 8390. Again, that number 412 444 8390. Give us a call. Like I said, leave your rant, leave your question. We'll play it on this podcast, and I will answer anything that you guys have out there. So, again, as always, you know the ways that you can help support the channel. Super chats, they're all wide open. Thank you guys for that have sent those in. We really, really appreciate it. We also got Venmo and Cash App that you see down there as well. So let's move on with the show. So a couple of questions that I got in the comments, was what's wrong with Keanu Benton? So I thought it was important to address that. First off, Keanu Benton's not a guy that's going to have a ton of tackles per se. In the Pittsburgh Steelers lineup, as a nose tackle, your job is not to have a bunch of tackles. Your job is to space eat. And Keanu Benton, first off, let me say this. I shouldn't say first off, I kept saying that. Is Keanu Benton's not a true nose tackle, not in my opinion. I think he's a true three technique. And I think the Steelers are going to address that in the draft next season or in free agency anyway. I think Keanu Benton is a three technique. And because he's not the big guy. I mean, he's a big man, but he's not. We just saw a big guy, a big nose tackle, Dexter Lawrence. That guy, 360 pounds. Keanu Benton isn't that. He's strong, but he's not 360 pounds. Okay. And I think he's a better three technique. I think that's his more natural position. And the Steelers have played a ton of nickel. 54% of the snaps have been nickel, which means they have 4 defensive linemen. We're not in our original base set of 3-4 defense. So in the nickel, Keanu Benton's not out there. It's Cam and Larry O. Those are the guys that have been out there in the nickel package. So Keanu gets his run, he gets his minutes, but he just hasn't been out there a ton. Trying to play that tilt nose tackle is tough. Trying to two gap is tough. And I just don't think that's his natural position. Now, again, I don't know that he's playing terrible, but he hasn't been the run stuffer, he hasn't been the disruptor, I should say, that the Steelers want and need in the run game. He doesn't have a ton of tackles for loss. I think he has 1. But again, his job is not to make a bunch of tackles. His job is to space eat up blockers, to let other guys, more athletic guys, linebackers and stuff, run around and go make tackles. Does he have to be better? Yes, he does have to be better. There's a rumor out there that he might even be injured. I don't know. They haven't said anything. It hasn't popped up on any reports, but that's kind of been the rumor that, he's got a little bit of an injury problem. And while I don't want anybody to be hurt, I would say this. If he is hurt, it makes me feel better because he hasn't been, like I said, outstanding against the run. Because if he's not hurt, that means he's taken a step back because he was better last year than he has been this year. Now, not getting the same amount of snaps last year, didn't know how to be a pro last year, but he was a disruptor. He hasn't been that. So hopefully the bye's coming at a really good time for him and that he can have a reset and get back after it. But I would say, like I said, he's undersized for the position, but Keanu Benton, we're going to need him. We are going to need him. And I think they got to give him more of an opportunity in the nickel package and playing a 3 technique or even playing a true nose, maybe a 2 technique, something. Give him more of an opportunity because I think there's more in there. Matter of fact, I'm positive. Like I said, you don't want anybody to be hurt, but if he is, it just would make me feel better because the alternative is that he's taken a step back, and that part I don't like, and I'm sure the Steelers brass don't like either. And Keanu doesn't like that. He's a good guy, good kid, hard worker, and I think he wants to make more plays. He's given us everything he's got. We haven't seen all the results that we probably need to see out of him right now. This past game against the Giants, it wasn't great, but I think they're scheming him off the field a little bit too. like I mentioned with the nickel package. So you just got to be a little bit better. Just got to be a little bit better. Uh, let's move on. Let's move on. First of all, we got a poll question for Keeanu. Before we move on, let's go to the poll question. Is Keanu Benton the problem or the weak link in our rush defense? Now, here's the thing. Before you guys answer, our rush defense is not bad. I mean, it's fifth in the league. We're only giving up 90 yards a game. So I'm not here sitting and telling you, oh, the Steelers' rush defense, oh, man, it's terrible. I think one of the things that makes us Steeler fans uneasy is that we've given up a lot of rushing yards to teams that haven't run the ball on anybody else all year. Dallas, the Giants, they haven't been able to run the ball on anybody. They ran it on the Steelers. A lot of that is scheme. I get it. They're getting us in the nickel. Like I mentioned, they're running the ball at Peyton Wilson, and Patrick Queen's not doing the job that we thought he was going to do. So I'm not sitting here saying that our run defense stinks because it doesn't. But like I mentioned, teams that haven't been able to run the ball on anybody have run it on the Steelers. So, but back to the poll question. A, yes, and now let me repeat it. Is Keanu Benton the problem or the weak link of our rush defense? A, yes, 3, and B, no, 3. Again, the numbers are because we have 3 poll questions. So I know that, like I said, I don't know that he's the weak link, but I know that there's more there. We got to get more out of him. He just hasn't been a disruptor. And we need that position to be a disruptor. And when I mean that, a space eater. Got to be a space eater. Moving on, people. Let's move on. So our man Beanie Bishop, guys coming back. Is Beanie Bishop going to keep his job? That is the question. It's a burning question that a lot of people are asking, man. Let's attack it head on. First off, Beanie Bishop made the team. I believe he's one of the last people to make the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and good for him. Undrafted free agent. Not a lot of those guys make the team. He did. Good for him. He struggled early. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You're lying if you say that he didn't struggle early in this season, because he absolutely did. He struggled. Dallas Cowboy game, you could just pinpoint that to being his low point of the season so far. Dak Prescott, they just singled him out. It seemed like that was the game plan. Let's go to nickel. He gets out on the field. Wherever Beanie Bishop is at, we're going to go at him. And they did repeatedly. And he did not play well. So he struggled early in the season, man. There's just, you're lying if you're saying that he didn't, because he did. However, he got better. And isn't that all you ask of guys, especially when you're struggling? Go get in the lab, go figure out something, go get better. Last 3 games, he's gotten better. Raiders, Jets, Giants. He's gotten better. The 2 picks that he had against the Jets, the first one was absolutely incredible. Dropping into coverage, reaching over the middle with one hand, intercept the ball in front of Garrett Wilson. Incredible pick. The second one, off a deflection. Oh, well, that's a deflection. That's not his problem. His problem is to catch football. The ball got deflected. He caught the football. Period. End of story. So is he playing better? Yes. Has he made other splash plays other than interceptions? Yes. He's made good tackles, open field tackles that needed to be made. A couple of them, if Beanie Bishop doesn't make those tackles, guys are out the gate scoring touchdowns. He's been good at times. But give the kid credit. He's fighting. He is fighting. And it's an uphill battle when you're an undrafted free agent, because they look for every reason to get you out of the lineup. And again, he played bad early, but the Steelers didn't have a choice based on injury. Well, let's go over the names of guys that are going to be coming back. Number 1, Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton is coming back off his 8-game suspension. The Steelers brought Cam Sutton back for a reason. That's to play this position. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Cam Sutton was good with the Steelers when he was playing in the slot. He went to Detroit. They wanted him to play outside. He wasn't as good. Got into trouble. They cut him. The Steelers brought him back to play this position. End of story. So that's number one. Number two, Corey Trice Jr. Corey Trice Jr. has all the tools to be an outstanding corner. Not a good one, an outstanding corner. He's athletic. He's big, long arms, instincts, good footwork, great hips, but he can't stay healthy. And as good as you are, if you can't stay healthy, then you can't be trusted or counted on. Now, that might seem a little harsh, but it goes back to the old saying the best ability is availability. But Corey Trice, if we're just talking corners, he's better than Beanie Bishop. And what he can do is you can put him on the outside and you can move Diontae Jackson to the inside. That's what Corey Trice allows you to do. So, but got to be healthy, but he's coming back. The last name, Diontae KZ. He's more of a safety, but he can also play slot corner. That's one of his things. Now, I know Deshaun Elliott's been in there some. When you bring back KZ, KZ can take his spot, and you can drop Deshaun Elliott down into the slot corner spot. We'll have a multitude of weapons back in the secondary. Early in the season, we talked about this. You guys go back. There's a podcast where we talked about what the Steelers secondary would look like or could look like when Cam Sutton came back. Well, now he's back. And this is what it looks like. And here's a question that I'm going to ask, and Beanie Bishop fans, you're not going to, and I'm a Beanie Bishop fan. You guys know that. I've been rooting for him this whole time. But this is a question that Beanie Bishop fans are not going to like, but you know me. I'm just asking it because it's an honest question. If Justin Fields can lose his job when Justin Fields was not playing bad, he had one bad outing against Dallas. You could say it was bad, but he led the team down the field to win the game, and then the defense gave it up. So Justin Fields had us at 4-2, wasn't playing bad. The offense wasn't spectacular, but we were winning football games. If you can take him out of the quarterback position, you can't take out an undrafted slot corner and put guys in front of him that technically were ahead of him on the depth chart before suspension and injury. So if Justin Fields can get his job taken away, Beanie Bishop can't get his job taken away? That's all I'm saying. I know that's a bad question to Beanie Bishop fans. That's a bad question, but it's the truth. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't play anymore. It doesn't even mean that these guys are going to take his job. Ultimately, the coaches are going to make that decision, based on what they see in practice. But don't be so mad when you see that he's not out there, because, again, how many people screamed that Russell Wilson shouldn't play and Justin Fields should play? Well, it hasn't worked out so bad for the Steelers. I'm not saying anything in the future. I'm just talking about Russell Wilson's played 2 games. He's played good. Period. End of story. Offenses look miles different and miles better. So if Fields can lose his job, Beanie Bishop can lose his too. That's all I'm saying, people. I'm not rooting for that. I don't want it to happen, but I'm not saying I don't, because you guys know me. I don't care who's out there. I just want them to play well and for us to win. So if it's Beanie Bishop, if it's Cam Sutton, if it's Fred Flintstone, I don't care. All I want to do is win. End of story. So look, man, at the bye, we're 6-2. We're 6-2. If you guys go back and look at my podcast that we did predicting the record, I wasn't far off. I had the Steelers at 7-1 hitting the bye. So I wasn't far off. I thought these were all games that we could win. But we didn't. We gave one away against the Cowboys. Lord have mercy. I said, but all the other games, we've been right there. We haven't been blown out. You could say we gave a game away against the Colts, but let's not get that far. Let's not do that. So we're not far off from where we thought we would be. We're getting guys back, whether they're coming off an injury or suspension. We're getting a lot of guys back. I think we learned a lot about this football team and the guys that we have in there that we've got some pretty good depth. We've got depth on this football team. Has it been tested? Absolutely. But you know what? Everybody's got to go through injuries are just part of the NFL, man. I say it all the time. Bones break, ligaments tear. It's just part of it. How you put your team together and how you structure it and whether you can have the depth to compete makes the difference. Well, the Steelers have hung in there and they've had a lot of injuries, and we have hung in there. Now those guys are coming back. The second half is going to be tougher. Yes, I get it. The competition is a lot tougher. But you know what? They got to play us too. And we're pretty damn good. That's all I'm going to say. Everybody keeps harping on the schedule and what the back end brings. And I understand that. I get it. You know what? The Raiders beat the Ravens, and we beat the brakes off the Raiders. So nobody's unbeatable. Nobody's untouchable. So for anybody that wants to come in here and talking about the Steelers, it's so hard. Hey, and those people got to play us too. Period. End of story. I think we're ready. I think we're going to be hitting on all cylinders when guys come back. We're going to be healthy as we can be anyway. And then let's go get after the second half of this schedule. Let's go win us a division, man. That's all I'm going to say. Here we go. Here we go. Look, man, thank you guys again, as always. I appreciate y'all, man. Bear with me with the outfit. I'm trying to have some fun with it, man. I love Halloween. I'm that guy. My wife is that woman. I'm that guy. We make our dog be that dog. My dog was Dino. So I appreciate y'all bearing with me, man. I love you guys. Again, Steelers Almighty, fastest growing Steelers channel on YouTube to date. It's all because of you guys. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers since April 1st when we started. It's all a testament to you. I appreciate it. And we will be back on our regular schedule. We'll get a little creative next week during the bye, but we'll be back next week. Appreciate you guys. Aloha.